Hello, this is Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Program Director for Communication, Media, and Ethics at Mid-America Christian University. I am here to discuss our Week 1 readings questions from students in COM 3533, Public Relations, Advertising, and Brand Management. Each week in this course, we have asked students to submit some weekly discussion questions, and it's an opportunity to engage the reading deeper than we might normally, as well as potentially put feelers out there for feedback. And so we see this as a kind of asynchronous dialogue where you all are putting out some of the commentary that you gain or critical response and reflection to the weekly readings, and our goal is to provide some type of feedback to help us engage that content deeper. All right, and so in week 1 of PR advertising and brand management, we get into 2 of our 3 texts in this course. And of course, just as a healthy recap, we're not trying to cover all 3 books in their entirety. We break them up between courses. And so there are some companion classes where you would have an opportunity to engage this content a little bit deeper if you're either in the comm major or using these comm courses as a kind of supportive elective to your respective major. In any event, I've printed off pages of questions, and what we're going to do here is take a strategic sampling, all right? And so I'll do my best to respond to as many as possible, but data suggests, like all things, we have limited time, attention spans, what have you, and so I'm going to just skim from the cream of the crop here. And so perhaps this incentivizes us in future weeks to work on the strategic architecture of our questions. All right, so that's something to think about, is how can we enhance our question asking, our textual engagement each week? How can we get a little bit better? And so I'll provide a little bit of oral commentary there in a general sense for everyone, but my written feedback will be privatized to you all on D2L. All right, and so let's start. We'll kind of keep it direct but quasi safe for our purposes. Let me jump on a couple of questions from Will. All right, so Will asks, what did the book mean when it stated that even lousy advertisements work? Let me pause there. There's a 2-part question, which I love. Perfect clarification point here. Which book are we talking about? For a broader sense of feedback to everyone, because I sense this as a common practice, let's work on creating subheaders that identify each of the texts we're actually writing questions about, so that we're not just jumbling them all into groups, okay? So the majority of us brand new to being in these types of comm settings and situations, so opportunity for us all to enhance the clarity of our communication. In any event, the follow-up question asks, back to the question, what did the book mean when it stated that even lousy advertisements work? You can answer that even without recognizing which book it came from. They work because they are still spreading brand awareness. And the follow-up question, why would they still work? And that it is because by simply spreading that message, by getting the name of that company, that idea, that brand inserted and out there and circulating, we're keeping a service or business in the public's mind. So you may say to yourself, oh, I hate fast food, right? And you're watching, a program, sporting event, something that you would consume live, so that you're taking in those commercial breaks. Maybe it's some of these reality competition shows that people are fond of seeing in a live setting. And you've got the commercial breaks, the fast food commercials come on, you think, oh, it's disgusting. Oh, I hate that. Taco Bell is so annoying with their 4th meal. Border run commercials. I can't stand this. But they hit you 3-4 times in the course of 2, 3, 4 hours. And a few days later, you're driving along, you're in between tasks, you're short on time, but you're also at a budget, monetarily speaking, and you see the bell, right? You see the sign, there it is, and that message has been doing some work, right? While you're focusing on other tasks, while you're sleeping, whatever, and it's a pre-made decision. So you're gonna have to have a border run, fourth meal, fifth meal, what have you. I don't think I've ever seen an ad featuring a hero, quote unquote. What would some examples be? I think anyone this could become our own little sub scavenger hunt. I think we could all find some text. Any commercial depicting someone saving others from something, especially in the last 15-20 years, with the film medium so heavily relying on the superhero genre. I think heroes of many kinds have taken on that identity of you can easily identify what it is, so it can become like a short form for storytelling in a commercial. In a commercial narrative, you have 30 seconds. Typically, on the internet, you might have a minute or 15 seconds, and so you've got to instantly connect. I think the act of saving is a very common trope in many modes of storytelling across several genres, but also could be an advertising trope. Something to think about deeper. I even think about, though, action figure commercials, right? Commercials for children. You're kind of seeing this play, this engagement going on. And so that could fuel that. Do you think it should be considered immoral or even illegal to add subliminal messaging to advertisements? Well, subliminal messaging, I think we all became educated about subliminal messaging, at least for a generation or two of us, through a classic episode of Saved by the Bell, right, where Zach learns about subliminal advertisements, and then he goes on to use it to his own sort of personal selfish gain, right, to get the affection of the ladies or the teacher or friends or what have you. And so he's sort of abusing that idea. But the central premise is we're still, all signs are shouting at us constantly. We're engaging signs all the time, signs and symbols, and many of those are advertisements, especially in our kind of postmodern setting, where even if we think of it as something like an entertainment or a leisurely activity or something like that, even a restaurant, I mean, it's to receive those symbols, for them to be out there and at us, is doing some subliminal work in some ways. And so the question was, should be considered immoral or illegal? And I don't know. The term I would replace for both of those is and ask is it unethical? I think we would have an easier time saying that subliminal messaging or advertising is unethical before we could even consider it illegal or immoral. It's certainly not outlawed, because it's pretty much a common practice. Immoral what is the message itself, right? And so it's not either per se, but thinking about unethical could get us there. Having a hard time understanding what IMC is. Integrated Marketing Communication, IMC. We're going to read all about it in Robin Blakeman's book. It's one of the popular texts among some of our students, the students that focus on public relations in the major. And really double check that first chapter. That first full chapter has some subsections specifically defining it for us. And I know that was another question, I think, from Megan, is asking more details. And it's like, the proof is in the pudding. We're going to check that out as we read the text here, okay? But integrated marketing communication, and several of you have good questions about that. The topic of using social media to advertise made me think about the Wendy's Twitter account. Do you think it is good for the company to reply to consumers who replied to consumers in a sassy or comedic way at the expense of the person? I think it's all, first of all, I think we've seen these case studies of fast food franchises in particular using their social media accounts in a kind of as you put it, sassy, but in kind of savvy, kind of postmodern way, right? They're talking back at the public. But it's tongue-in-cheek. I don't think they've crossed any boundaries, and if they did, I'm sure there would have been ramifications, right? But not just Wendy's, but I believe Arby's and actually KFC all have these little creative perks to how they've utilized social media as a way to gain attention, as to keep their brand out there. And so I don't know there's anything wrong with it. I think you have to be savvy in how you manage it. I think that is the ultimate. That's like the new mode of advertising, right? Well, how do you sell the product? Well, that's the $1 million question, right? The $1 billion question sometimes. And so same thing. How do you manage a social media account? Exactly. There's not a singular response. It is a cultivated, strategic process that increasingly highly monitored. So I think having this conversation allows a space to tease it out. A reverse example came to mind, and that would have been MoviePass, which might still be existing in operation, but MoviePass was this sort of almost like a drafting debit card that you would pay a subscription fee to, and there was various rules about how and when you could use it to go to the movies, and it kept changing over time, so that created a lot of dysfunction with the consumer base. And as we do in the modern era, people go to social media to complain. And so the MoviePass Twitter account specifically was fielding all of these questions. And their issue was they were giving a very generic response that was meant to kind of put a lid on it and kind of temper that and help the consumer feel better. Problem was, it was sort of so overused because the problems were so widespread that it became a parody of itself after a period. All right, let's see here. Several questions about newspapers, which is our print journalism, and the print medium is our focus point of week 1. So as they should be. Do you think that the newspaper will die out as people become more environmentally conscious about the waste of paper? Yes, but I think it's many factors. I think you could say that for certain pockets, for sure. Areas of the maybe coastal regions, maybe the Pacific Northwest. I mean, and I'm just stereotyping here, but these areas that tend to demonstrate more of a conscientious effort about waste management, about recycling, about control. On the flip side, I think sometimes you can cultivate a niche audience or readership if you're doing something like utilizing 100% recycled goods and paper, and I think that's a savvy way around it that some have really benefited from. But the newspaper in general is what we call a medium in transition, and all newspapers, I'm going to go ahead. I feel like we've moved far enough. We can use a term like all. It doesn't mean all. I'm not saying 100% have, but all newspapers need to have that digital side, that digital platform, that digital front in order to preserve, right, their status, in order to continue, that is to say, survive. I think it's demanded. I mean, the consumer market has spoken, and whether it's behind a paywall or open access or shared or what have you, you need both sides of that to operate, to function. But I think about something like even Entertainment Weekly, right? EW, that entertainment magazine you see in all the airports and storefronts. They just announced maybe last week that they were going monthly, right? So the title of the magazine is Entertainment Weekly, but they're going monthly. But I guess they're going to have, weekly content, just like now we have daily content in essence, that's kind of pushed out from their website, but all, through all their social media platforms. All right. Didn't quite make all the questions into a single video, but that's common, and it's a little bit of a norm, but it's a good sign that we've got good questions to talk about in our discussion here. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to shift, and we'll be back with part 2 of our video discussion in public relations, advertising, and brand management. Hang tight.